Now it's Brett Wheeler's turn.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Let me say it was 2 years ago this month that I took over as interim dean for the School of Informatics and Computing for a short period of time until Dean Acharya came on board, and I had the opportunity to work with both Jeffrey and Kadi. What they haven't mentioned is they are both distinguished professors at IU. That is that most rarefied air at IU, and a great achievement. Jeffrey talked a little bit about the Intelligent Systems Engineering program, but I hope you can get your head around how much work that was to start a clean sheet from the ground engineering program. The Bloomington campus did not have engineering. There's another school up to, I don't know, the Northwest somewhere that does engineering. And so that was not part of the Bloomington program, but they've got this off the ground, and as you can see, Jeffrey, Kadi, and her colleagues, they are building the next generation of engineering program for cloud computing, devices, and all the things that you see. And I cannot tell you how hard Jeffrey has worked in all the interviews, just even the first year bringing 19 candidates or 23 candidates in for recruiting, so they've really done it. My job is to be Vice President for Information Technology. I'm a professor in the business school. I want to welcome you to the Cyber Infrastructure Building. This is where 550 people call home every day in this building, and we've got a couple hundred in buildings adjacent to us. If you don't know a lot about Indiana University, here's a few factoids. We're about a $3.5 billion enterprise, about 100,000 students. Blessedly, they are not all here at this campus. That is across all of our campuses. We are not a system like you might see in California or Wisconsin. We are a single university, a line authority, single university. Our IT shops, our finance shops, our research technologies support all our faculty and students everywhere they are. You can see about 20,000 faculty and staff, 650,000 living alumni who all have a view on our basketball program of whether it's going up or down at any particular moment. And you can see a few action items we've done here over time. The other thing we're a little different in, and I think relevant to your topics today, the way we are organized, Office of the Vice President for IT, we are a single shared service entity that over 20 years has only been led by 2 full professors of the academy. So the heart and soul of the enterprise is in the heart and soul of the mission, and that is research and education. So you can see here a lot of lines and such, but a large research technology shop, a large teaching and learning classroom shop, clinical affairs with the med school, nursing, et cetera. Then we've got a lot of services and support as well. Pretty big operation, as you can see over there, about 1,050 people. We run about 20 million in contracts and grants a year in this shop, partnered with IU faculty. If you walk out to the restrooms out this back door, you'll see the Global Network Operations Center, which is the heart of operations for Internet 2, for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, for some of your state networks in Pennsylvania and Oklahoma and other places, as well as links that the NSF has funded to Asia and to Europe, and then on down from Europe to Africa. In front of you, you've got a few little fun factoids about things the shop does. When you're taking care of 20,000 faculty and staff and 100,000 students at any moment, we typically have about 250,000 devices touching the IU network at any moment. Not everyone takes care of their security hygiene at a level that I wish that they would. So we're doing a lot of things, and you can see some of those factoids on the screen in front of you. I really believe collaboration is strategy. You're interested in something, I'm interested in something. I put my piece with your piece. We try to make the coordination as light as we can, and we achieve something more. So here you see this just menagerie of deep collaborations that we're involved in, from cybersecurity to research technologies, libraries. The Hathi Trust, I think, is one of the most phenomenal things that we've ever done. So you see these partnerships around, and we are deeply, deeply engaged in many of these. Kadi mentioned one of the newest ones, Unison, around teaching and learning. You can think of it as reducing the costs and improving the services around content, whether it's open educational resources or it's license deals from the textbooks to get those darn books to cost a whole bunch less. The interaction platforms in the middle, whether it's Canvas or e-readers or things like that, and then ultimately the big data. How do we know if particular teaching practices or sequences are doing better? There's a little bit of a definition of some of those. Cotty can make the slides available. But I hope that what we're showing you is we are deeply engaged in the life of the mission here. So if you take some of the tours today or tomorrow, here's a few things that you may see. One is Jetstream. And Jetstream was funded by the National Sciences Foundation. It's about a $12 million initiative. And you kind of think about it like the Staples commercial. It's the big red easy button. If you need high-performance computing resources, you need to connect to some data sets, you want to run it from your iPad, you want to make a place where you and your discipline and your colleagues work together, that's what Jetstream does. It manufactures virtual environments where you can put your stuff, the people that you collaborate with, and NSF has just got us running full bore on that and wanting us to do more. You see Big Red 2 down here in the bottom. It was the first university-owned petaflop supercomputer. And that's all for IU researchers here. Big Red 2 has a little cousin beside it, Big Red 2 Plus right now. So if you've not been through a big data center and want to see the craze and all, go get a selfie with Big Red. He poses really well. Media digitization and preservation. I don't know how your 8-track tape player is doing. I can't find mine. Or more directly, your wax cylinder player. So we are currently involved in a bicentennial initiative led by our president, IU President Michael McRobbie, to digitize our time-based media, audio and video. So if you think about things on digital audio tape, reel-to-reel, records, all those things, we are at an era where the devices that will play them are no longer available. Sony has stopped all manufacture of tape products. So those massive libraries of Sony Betamax tape and things that news stations have and all, they're not even making the parts for the machines to read those any longer. So there's a massive digitization effort. We are running 280,000 items through to digitize of audio video. That'll throw off 7 petabytes of storage. That is in partnership with Sony and a company called Memnon. And we just announced phase 2, and that will be, IU has about 90,000 films. We have quite a film collection. We're going to digitize our most precious 25,000 films. 25,000 films will throw off 35 petabytes of data. So think what machine learning is going to learn as it chews through about 40 to almost 50 petabytes of data from time-based media objects. We just finished our major statewide IT conference, and I think it's a bit timely to some of the topics here. It's called In the Age of the Smart Machine. Here is the book, In the Age of the Smart Machine, The Future of Work and Power. It was written by Shoshana Zuboff, professor at the Harvard Business School in 1988. Think about that, 1988. And as I look at the title for your conference, I am really reminded, as we head into more about technologies for humans, we got a lot to think about, how it changes our lives. Yesterday, my phone freaked me out a little bit. It told me a flight was arriving or departing at a certain time, and Google told me that. It was a flight I booked for a friend. It was not on my calendar. How did the Google know that? And it's just a little creepy. Second point I'll raise here, this is a book by our Vice President for Research, Bulk Collection. A magnificent new book out about how much data is being mopped up many times without our consent, and what are the laws around the world. Deep dive in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in the United States, and most of you know the Europeans have given this a bit more thought than we have with some of the regulations that they have coming out now. But our two keynote speakers there, Shoshana Zuboff at the bottom and Dan Geer. If you Google statewide IT and IU, you'll stumble around, you'll find this. Dan Geer's remarks on cybersecurity were the most profound cybersecurity talk I have ever heard in my life. He is a CISO for a not-for-profit that has some funding from the CIA, and that's all I'll say. Let's just say he's one of those guys that runs in those circles, and his remarks were absolutely profound. We have his written remarks as well. It's one of those that it's almost better read because you have to think about every sentence in what he said. So deeply engaged in these things. And I'll finish this up with, this appeared in the Chronicle of Higher Ed yesterday. Jeffrey Salingo, who was the editor of the Chronicle some years ago, there's a full report that has been written about this. But for higher education, I see the academy in its operations and its enablement and in its services, whether it's libraries or computation or systems or even degree programs taught across institutions, increasingly taking on the model that academics have used for years. Our faculty collaborate on research with partners everywhere. We've learned how to do that in a fairly frictionless way. He's making the argument here for the networked university through intentional coalitions, collaborations, and such. And we have been pursuing this strategy for the better part of 15 years around here, and we start to see some really good outcomes. So welcome to Indiana University. I hope you'll avail yourself to the tours for media digitization next door. Go over to the data center, see Big Red, tweet a photo with Big Red 2, see the Global Network Operations Center behind here. And I just have to tell you how passionate and proud I am to be part of Indiana University and to, with Cotty and the whole program committee, host you here today at IU. Thank you.